What we're going to be discussing today is the American healthcare delivery system. And essentially, whether you're a caregiver or a patient or just a human being, sooner or later, you're going to have an encounter with the American healthcare delivery system that is going to make you wonder how this institution came to be so messed up. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to be looking at three elements of the American healthcare delivery system. First off, what it is, how it came to be this way, and how to protect yourself from it. And this is information that I think everybody needs. But essentially, I'm going to explaining these three elements, and I'm going to do this most effectively. I decided to use stories. One of the most effective ways that people learn is through stories. And there was a study conducted actually a couple of studies that were conducted in 1980 that said students like teachers that tell stories. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a bunch of stories. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you will like me. Okay, so that's the ultimate goal. The first story I'm going to tell you is basically a story of serendipity. It's a story of the history of scientific discovery is abundant with of instances where scientific discoveries have progressed, science. And so what I'm going to tell you is a story of serendipity. And it's a story of how the American healthcare system sucked me in, chewed me up, and spit me into the field of biomolecular psychology. I have a form of muscular dystrophy. It's a form of muscular dystrophy called Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease. And Charcot-Marie-Tooth is a type of peripheral neuropathy that affects the transmission of information between the nervous system and the rest of the body. Like other forms of muscular dystrophy, Charcot-Marie-Tooth is a very, very painful neuropathic condition. Now, with this form of muscular dystrophy, the neuropathic pain doesn't generally begin, it begins generally between the ages of 5 and 25. Now, for me, the neuropathic pain began in my junior year of high school. And my doctors, following protocol, said, okay, well, no problem. What we'll do is we'll start you on codeine. Codeine worked great for about the first 2 years. Then I developed a tolerance, okay? And so following protocol, my doctor said, oh, that's no problem. We got plenty of opiates to choose from. What we'll do is we'll change the opiate and we'll increase the dose. So throughout my entire adult life, I developed a tolerance to every oral opiate invented. I went through them all. And this is not a comprehensive list, but I went through oxycodone, oxycontin, hydrocodone, Vicodin, codeine, Opana, and fentanyl. Finally, and doctors just kept increasing the dose. Finally, they increased the dose so high, and by high I mean 500 milligrams of morphine 3 times a day. That dose caused me to suffer a stroke. That's how I lost the use of my left arm. That's also the last day that I walked. Okay, I was golfing the weekend before. And this was when I was 51 years old. And at that point, my doctor said, well, you know what? What the protocol is now, you've used up every oral opiate invented. So what the protocol is now is we put you into hospice. And we will ensure that you go out comfortably. We will manage your pain That's always the operative word. We will manage your pain, or operative phrase. We will manage your pain through intravenous morphine. Let's see if that, did that shit? No, it didn't. Let's go back. Intravenous morphine. And what we will do is we will keep increasing the intravenous morphine over the course of these next 6 months, and eventually you'll stop breathing. And I'm like, okay, well, doctor, I'll tell you what. I understand your protocol. I understand the paradigm that you're operating under, but I've been following the pharmaceutical protocol for my entire adult life. And this is where it's gotten me. It's gotten me to the point where now you're saying, well, you know what? The protocol now is to euthanize you. Now I understand that you don't have any choice because this is the protocol that is presented to you by the hospital that you're affiliated with and by the insurance company that I'm affiliated with. So this is how it worked. And at that point I said, you know what I'm going to do is I've been following the pharmaceutical protocol my entire adult life. This is where it's gotten me. I'm going to try the nutraceutical approach. And at that point, my doctors were like, oh, no, that's got no medical application whatsoever. It's not even FDA approved. You stay with the pharmaceuticals. I'm like, well, you know what? Realistically, I'm not really that interested in dying. What do I got to lose? I'm going to give it a shot. So I went the nutraceutical route, the natural medicines. And essentially, to the amazement of my doctors and realistically to my own amazement, the nutraceuticals worked. They treated the neuropathic pain from the muscular dystrophy. They also treated the 4-decade opiate addiction that the American healthcare system had inflicted on me. So basically, this is my story. This is how I got into what I'm doing now, which is biomolecular psychology, and we'll talk about that later. But essentially, this is my first experience with, my lifetime experience with the American healthcare delivery system. Okay, and that's just my story. It really doesn't mean anything. What does mean something is the American healthcare delivery system. What is it? This is the first section of this, and basically, people much smarter than I am defined the American healthcare delivery system. In 2001, Shea and Singh provided a definition of the American healthcare delivery system the way it is now, and what they said is in a book that they wrote titled "The American Healthcare Delivery System," really expensive book. Titled "The American Healthcare Delivery System," they defined it and said the American healthcare delivery system is an irrational and unintegrated network of institutional components designed to work together incoherently. Now that's a mouthful. And so what they did, and this is the beautiful thing that they did, is this is a good definition, and I love this definition. It's the definition that we're going to use in this program, and you'll see how this works. But the thing that they provided in their book was a chart, and it spelled out the components or the elements of the American healthcare delivery system. And basically, the American healthcare delivery system is a medley of bankrolling, indemnification, and distribution and recompense mechanisms that remain loosely coordinated. The bankrolling, insurance, payment, and delivery functions are principally under the auspices of for-profit organizations. Now, for-profit organizations always have one motivation. What's that motivation? Make money. Profit, yes. So In 2022, the top 10 pharmaceutical companies cleared $4.84 trillion in profits in 2022. Now, whenever I bring that statistic up, people always think about how lucrative it is to be a drug dealer, and so this is where we're at. And what I'm going to share with you now is probably the greatest business plan that's ever been created in the history of mankind. Understand, I have patients all over the United States that call me and talk to me about, what do I do? And a lot of these patients, so many of them are fibromyalgia patients. And generally what happens is by the time these fibromyalgia is a really, really painful condition, pain radiating throughout the body, and it's not a lot of fun to have fibromyalgia. So anyway, what we've got is an ailment. It doesn't really matter what the ailment is. The ailment can be any sort of autoimmune disorder. I picked fibromyalgia because, like I say, a significant number of patients of mine suffer from fibromyalgia. And so by the time they get to me, they're on like 25 or 30 different medications a day. This is how this happens. Okay, first off, the patient goes in to the doctor's office and says, Doctor, I'm in pain. It's pain radiating throughout my entire body. What do I do? So the doctor, gets a diagnosis. Oh, you've got fibromyalgia. It's not an easy diagnosis to make, and it's not one. I mean, I can kind of make it, but I'm not qualified to diagnose. I don't diagnose. Once I have a diagnosis from a doctor, I can treat as a biomolecular psychologist, but I'm not allowed to diagnose. This is just how the American healthcare delivery system works. Because doctors know a lot more, medical doctors know a lot more about how to diagnose than I do. They've been trained. I have not. I mean, I can generally pick out a lot of times people with fibromyalgia, but that's just because, I see it all the time. But anyway, this is what happens with fibromyalgia. And the patient goes in, says, Doctor, I'm so much pain. Got a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. The doctor says, oh, no problem. We've got a molecule to treat that. We call it Vicodin. Vicodin is a lower level opiate, and it's still being prescribed because it was never really too badly implicated in the opiate lawsuits that are ongoing now. So the doctor says, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write you a prescription for Vicodin, and come back and see me in 3 weeks. We'll see how you're doing. So 3 weeks later, that patient comes back and says, Doctor, I'm constipated. Opiate-induced constipation. So the doctor says, oh, that's no problem. We've got a molecule to treat that. We call it Relistor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write you a prescription for Relistor. And come back and see me in 3 weeks. So 3 weeks later, the patient comes back and says, Doctor, I'm anxious. I'm so anxious. I don't understand it. It's a side effect of the Relistor, and so the doctor says, well, what I'll do is I'll write you a prescription for Xanax, to relieve the anxiety. So come back and see me in 3 weeks. So patient comes back in 3 weeks and says, Doctor, I'm so tired. I can't get any work done. side effect of the Xanax. And I can't get any work done. So the doctor says, oh, that's no problem. We've got a molecule to treat that. We call it modafinil. And 3 weeks later, the patient comes back and says, doctor, I'm so depressed, a side effect of the modafinil. And so the doctor says, oh, that's no problem. We got a molecule to treat that. We call it Zoloft. And you can read the side effects of the Zoloft. But the point is, whatever the side effect that goes on, the doctor will say, okay, well, and I've got a molecule to treat that. And this is, if you think about the pharmaceutical commercials that you see, they're great, because always at the end of these pharmaceutical commercials, they give you the side effects. These are the side effects. And if you experience any of these side effects, consult your doctor, because your doctor has another molecule to treat the side effect that this one caused. You following me? You with me? Okay, so this is what we're talking about. So we're talking about, we're talking about, these side effects are called iatrogenic ailments. That's the medical terminology. And iatrogenic ailments are simply adverse effects that are caused from medical treatment, essentially side effects. And these are and iatrogenic ailments are the third leading cause of death after heart disease and cancer. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about when we talk about the American healthcare delivery system. And so how did it come to be this way? And this is the next section of this program, and that's what we're going to talk about. And you know what we're going to do is we're going to talk about it through the lens of biomolecular psychology. And whenever I tell people I'm a biomolecular psychologist, people always say, "Oh, that's way over, man. I'm never going to understand that." But I'll tell you, this is the easiest thing in the world, and I'm going to teach you today how to think like a biomolecular psychologist, okay? And this is, like I say, it's the easiest thing in the world. And essentially, biomolecular psychology is, it's the easiest way to conceptualize biomolecular psychology is that it's analyzing holistically from a biomolecular perspective. And that sounds complicated, but I'm going to show you how easy it is. And I'm going to do that by looking at the American healthcare delivery system. And essentially, to examine healthcare or medicine, you pretty much have to go back to its beginnings. And its beginnings are basically after just essentially understand that humanity has been engaged in a war against disease and mood disorders since the Neolithic era, since we crawled out of the Ice Age and transitioned from hunter-gatherers to an agrarian society, farmers. So we started to, so essentially humans transitioned from a hunter-gatherer's existence to living in primitive agricultural settlements. Humans began to settle down into one place with one overlying goal, finding the niche which is with an optimal environment to grow plants for food. And this transition accelerated human evolution by causing a radical shift in human behavior called the Neolithic Revolution. So this was essentially the first agrarian settlements. They basically originated as cannabis hemp farms. And there's an ancient Chinese Neolithic legend that says that the gods gave cannabis and hemp to humans to fulfill all their needs. Early humans quickly discovered hemp's usefulness in making rope, cloth, medicine, religious, and oftentimes religious sacrament. And this encouraged further growing of the plant. And so, because it basically provided everything. It provided oils for cooking food, and it provided a variety of things, hemp. And one of the things the first okay, I'm sorry, but basically it was all about growing plants to do things, to make like rope and that sort of thing. Let me see where we're at. So the earliest known farming culture was the Yangtze. And the Yangtze culture was originate back to 5000 BC, and it was cannabis driven. And this civilization traded excess cannabis with other tribes. That created a piece of civilization called commerce, and where we trade, and basically goods for services, goods for stuff, and the things that were traded were oftentimes hemp, because hemp was so useful. One of the things that hemp was really useful for was making paper. Hemp paper was able to be produced in copious amounts, and so that allowed us to write on hemp paper. Hemp replaced bulky clay tablets and expensive silk, and so we were able to make basically create books and stuff with information in it, so that people could learn. Learn from, we could record our own history from which we could learn from. And so this was what, one of the things, the first information age came because of hemp. And the first books were actually medical journals. And you know what the first things in those medical journals were? Well, they were the medicinal uses of cannabis. And so, let's see. So this was the road to medicine. Archaeologists agree that cannabis hemp was one of the first. I'm sorry. Let's go to this. This plant was the only one. I'm sorry. Yeah. Basically, yeah. I'm sorry. Archaeologists agree that cannabis hemp was one of the first plant species to be purposely grown. When you're one meal away from starvation, you don't spend a lot of time on tasks that don't fit your needs. And cannabis was one of the first plants that was grown dioeciously. And that just means that it was cultivated dioeciously, meaning that it had separate male and female plants. This gives us an understanding as to what proto-humans were thinking about the plant and how they were using it. And there's really only one use for the female cannabis plant, and that's medication. And now other plants have medicinal properties as well. For example, lavender. We all know about lavender bath oils and that sort of thing. The reason we used lavender bath oils is because the scent of lavender has a calming effect. I actually have a patient that uses the scent of lavender to calm her hyperactive child. And so a lot of plants have medicinal properties. Lemon, pine. Let's go with pine. I mean, I could do lemon. Let's go with pine. Pine sol. Think of you're all familiar with pine sol. It's a cleanser. And the reason they use pine oil and pine salt coming from pine trees, the reason they use that is because it's a really, really, really potent antibacterial. Also a potent antifungal, potent anti-malarial, potent antibacterial. And that's why they use, welcome. That's why we use pine oil for cleaning, in pine salt. Okay, so basically, when you think about plants, figure that many of them have medicinal properties. Oftentimes they're antibacterial, oftentimes they're anti-malarial, antifungal, and essentially the cannabis plant. Most plants only have one. Let's look at the cannabis plant, just because the cannabis plant has more medicinal molecules than any other plant. It just produces more. And because it's got 151 cannabinoids and over 600 terpenes. The cannabinoids, every one of these 151 cannabinoids, they have bacterial effects, and they have anti-inflammatory effects. I haven't found one cannabinoid that is produced by cannabis that doesn't have really, really potent anti-inflammatory properties. So so it's really, really good for pain. That's why you see it. That's why you see cannabis kind of taking over. Because people are using it rather than the pharmaceutical medications that have all these side effects that the molecules that the cannabis plant produces doesn't. So anyway, we're not really going to get too far into cannabis unless there are going to be questions about it at the end. And so what I'd like to do is just kind of talk about the progression of medicine. The progression of medicine from the Neolithic era right on up to 1906. 1906 is a very, very important date. Very, very important year, because that's the year the FDA what fell out of the patent office, emerged from the patent office. And here's what happened with the FDA. And this is really, when I figured this out in my doctoral program, I'm like, oh my Lord, this is really, really, to me, this is like so amazing. What happened in 1906 was the year that essentially we as Americans, or the United States as an institution, decided that we wanted to be a synthetic society. 1906. Now, if you're going to pin it down to a date, that's the date, or that's the year. So 1906, let's go on. I'm sorry. So 1906, what happens is the FDA is formed. And what happens with the FDA is it emerges from the patent office and says, well, you know what? We are not going to evaluate any purported medicinal molecules unless they are synthetic, unless they are patentable. And so the only molecules that are patentable are synthetic molecules. And we're gonna get into synthetic molecules. And that's that, and basically, let's see. So what I want you to do is all of these molecules that we're talking about, I want you to conceptualize these as bullets, medicinal bullets. This is the best analogy to use. These cannabinoids and terpenes that I'm talking about, that the cannabis plant produces, and the other plants produce, well, they are. Think about them as bullets. The last ice age ended 12,500 years ago, and right up until the 1990s, the only bullets that we had to fight this war against disease and mood disorders were the medicinal molecules that nature altruistically provided us. Thank you, nature. And that's what medicine was based on, and that's what this slide was about. That's what medicine was based on. By the 1900s, we started to realize, and this is something that the proto-humans never had the technology to figure out, was all of these molecules. These scientists were able to say, okay, let's look at this on a molecular level. And that's what they started to do with the medicinal molecules. And so that was medicine right up until 1906. 1906 was when the FDA was created, and basically what it did was it said, okay, you know what? All of those molecules that were medicinal for those 12,500 years, you can't use those because you can't patent nature. So what we did is as an institution, we said, okay, it's got to be FDA approved. You want that label. That label is so important. FDA approved. That label is so important. The insurance companies cannot pay for any medicines that don't have that FDA approved label. So they have to cover all the pharmaceutical medications. And that's what America has been, the American healthcare delivery system has been based on since 1906. It's all been, everything has to be synthetic because it's patentable. And so this is what took place. So let's talk about the definition of a drug. What is a drug? Well, this is the that came out kind of dark. This is the definition of drug. This is what the CDC uses. This is what the World Health Organization uses. This is what the National Institute of Health uses. This is what NIDA uses, National Institute of Drug Abuse uses. Definition of a drug is any substance that has a physiological effect when ingested or otherwise introduced into the body. Now think about that. Food. Under this definition, food is a drug because it has a physiological effect on the body. Anything that you ingest is gonna be considered a drug, okay? And because it has a physiological effect on the body. Water has a physiological effect on the body. Technically, water would be considered a drug. The terpenes and the cannabinoids that I'm talking about with cannabis, yeah, they're drugs. But the thing is, here's the thing. There are two types of drugs. There are nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals. Okay, pharmaceuticals are medicinal molecules that are chemically synthesized in a laboratory. Nutraceuticals are the medicinal molecules that are provided by nature. Okay, those are the molecules that we had been using throughout the 12,500 years since we crawled out of the Ice Age, basically. Pharmaceutical molecules are synthetic. Nutraceutical are natural molecules. Pharmaceutical molecules, patentable. So the FDA can approve them because they come with a patent. When nutraceutical molecules, not patentable. So insurance can't cover these. So I'm trying to remember what the next. Oh, this is okay. See, I like this slide. Okay, yeah. So let's kind of talk about. This is cool. This is where I kind of introduce biomolecular psychology, and to me this is just fascinating, because here's how you have to think about this. Whenever you ingest a molecule, and it doesn't matter what that molecule is. It can be a food product, it can be a pharmaceutical medication, it can be a cannabinoid or a terpene. Whatever the molecule is, and you'll remember this from your high school biology class. Now, the thing is, a lot of times when I say that, people will say, well, you know what? I didn't pay any attention to in my biology classes. I just didn't pay any attention. But you've had enough life experience now to know that this is how things work. So here's what happens whenever you ingest a molecule. Whenever you ingest a molecule, your body sends out an enzyme to degrade that molecule, basically to break that molecule down, euphemistically to eat that molecule. Now, if that molecule is a natural molecule like food or a cannabinoid or a terpene, well, that enzyme has had eons and eons of evolution to learn how to degrade that molecule, to break that molecule down, essentially to eat that molecule. Now, if that molecule is synthetic, it's like that enzyme is trying to eat plastic fruit. Okay, so what does that enzyme do? That enzyme says, I can't eat this. You know, I just can't eat this. So, sorry, I didn't mean to turn my back on you. But I can't eat this. So what does the enzyme do? Well, the enzyme calls in a protein. Proteins are really, really interesting molecules. The type of protein it calls in is called a kinesin. It's a worker molecule. And the thing about proteins is that's really, really interesting is they've got a really, really good work ethic. And this is just what proteins are about, is they're workers. And this particular protein, I'm not sure if I can do this from here with this. Nope, I can't. I've got to go back. Okay, so I've got to play around with this to show you this is just a 30-second video, and it's really, really interesting because, and the reason I want to show it to you is because it gives you an idea as to why I enjoy biomolecular psychology so much. So what I want you to understand is that this protein, this is what the protein is. Is that orange thing, the orange stringy thing? That's the protein. Okay, so this right here, that's the protein. That's the kinesin, the worker molecule. This is the molecule or the worker molecule that says, okay, you know, when the enzyme says, hey, you know, I can't eat this. Haul this molecule away because I can't eat it. So the protein does what proteins do and says, well, okay, Mr. Enzyme, I'll haul that molecule away for you. So it hauls that molecule away and it stores it. And I'm going to show you a video to show, and basically this green blob right here, this green sphere, that's the synthetic molecule that the enzyme is unable to eat. So let me show you what it looks like. And this is the beautiful thing is we now have the technology to know what these things look like. And so we can say, okay, this is what it looks like when a protein is hauling a synthetic molecule away and storing it somewhere. And let me get this because I got to do this. Click, current video. Okay, so now it's going to come up, and yeah. So let me show you what it is, what it looks like when the protein hauls this molecule away. Yeah, there was supposed to be sound on there, and there wasn't. That's all right.
Take the sound off.
Okay, that's all right. Oh, it's muted. All right. Well, it doesn't matter. So anyway, this is what it looks like when that protein is hauling this molecule away. And the thing is, it's hauling it away and it's storing it, okay? And where it's going to store it is essentially in some part of the body. Generally, it hauls it to the liver. A lot of times it'll haul it and store it in the kidneys. Sometimes it'll store it in the brain. Wherever it stores it, it causes inflammation that results in the side effects that we talked about, earlier with that fibromyalgia demonstration. So let's go. Let's see. No. So, oh God. I think this will go to the next slide. Okay. So basically what happens is it stores it somewhere. And it ends up causing those side effects, and pretty much through inflammation. And whenever I bring up the word inflammation, people always think inflammation, pain. Now the thing is, there are different types of inflammation. It really all depends on the pro-inflammatory cytokine that is activated, and you don't need to know that terminology. It's just, So essentially what happens is there's different types of inflammation other than inflammation that's pain. Yeah, there's pain inflammation, but a lot of times inflammation can manifest as mood disorders, anxiety, irritability, sleeplessness, depression, essentially the symptoms of PTSD. Okay, so what we've got and what I've just described is a flawed paradigm of the American healthcare delivery system. And you see where I'm going with this, right? The flawed paradigm of the American healthcare delivery system. The paradigm is that only synthetic produced molecules can be considered medicinal, because they're patentable, and so they can gain FDA approval, and if it has FDA approval, insurance can cover it.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
You said that only the synthetics can be FDA approved.
Right.
What about synthetics like we all know aspirin came from willow bark, salicylic acid?
Right. Yeah, but what they've done is they've synthesized those.
Opiates from opium poppy.
Yeah.
That's a natural.
Right. Yeah, that's a natural, but that's a different thing. Opiates from and now it's synthetic opiates. Now it's synthetic aspirin.
Okay.
And so all of these molecules that you're taking, a lot of times, and I've got nothing against big pharma. I mean, it's just let's at least allow for the use of the medicines that we've been using for 12,500 years. That don't have the side effects. Don't restrict us. We should have, and we'll talk about that a little further when we get into autonomy. So basically, this is the flawed paradigm of the American healthcare delivery system. These are the tenets that this system operates under. And that's that only synthetic produced molecules can be considered medicinal. The side effects of synthetic medicines are treated with additional synthetic medicines that also have side effects. Okay, and naturally produced medicinal molecules, well, they can't attain FDA approval because you can't patent them. You can't patent nature. So the FDA can't even look at it. Well, did it come with a patent? No, it didn't come with a patent. Well, we can't look at it if it doesn't have a patent. We're the FDA. This is we've written a mission statement in 1906 that we will not evaluate anything that doesn't come with a patent. Okay, so because they lack FDA approval, health insurance can't cover it. And the thing about it is, the nutraceutical medicines, well, they lack the side effects. They don't have the side effects because your body's able to degrade them. They're not being stored away in your liver, in your kidney, in your brain, in whatever part of the body the little kinesin protein hauls it to. And so you don't get the side effects that are being caused by the pharmaceutical medications that you're taking. Now, some pharmaceutical medications, yeah, they're great. I mean, I take some anti-cholesterol medicine because my cholesterol came up a little high, and my doctor showed me the chart, the lab results, and said, well, this is where you're at. This is what I'm thinking we should do. I'm going to give you 10 milligrams because I'm just not sure whether you're going to take it or not. And I'm like, yeah, well, okay, doc, yeah, I'll take it, because I can say, yeah, 10 milligrams, it's not going to hurt me. So I take 10 milligrams of this simple anti-cholesterol medicine. I'm getting to that age that, yeah, maybe my cholesterol is a little high. Yeah, my diet really sucks. I mean, when it gets down to it, it does. And there's not really a great deal I can do about that because I have to do microwavable stuff because I can't cook. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have a problem with pharmaceuticals, but let's complement, at least allow for the ability to use the stuff that doesn't produce the side effects that I don't want. I don't want to be tired. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to be irritable. I mean, you've never seen me irritable. And because I'm enjoying life. I mean, basically, I'm living the dream. Right now, I'm living the dream talking with you guys. And because I love doing this. And I'm hoping you're getting something out of it. And so, this is, and I'm hoping I've told enough stories that at least maybe you like me. So this is the paradigm. So what we've got is a flawed paradigm of the American healthcare delivery system, because basically deaths and other events, adverse events caused by synthetic medicines have resulted in challenges to this dominant and institutionally created paradigm. Created by the pharmaceutical industries as an institution, created by the FDA, created by the insurance companies. And this is just how it is. So we're working under a flawed paradigm of the American healthcare delivery system. So what do we do? And how do we adapt to the flawed paradigm of the American healthcare delivery system? So what we need is an arsenal. And I don't want to keep harping on this war, like this war against disease and mood disorders. I don't want to, do this war analogy too much. But essentially in 1980, the politicians that we elect to make our medical decisions for us, essentially what they did in 1980, and this is also kind of interesting, is in 1980 they realized that the American healthcare delivery system was not providing patients with the information that they need. And they said, you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to mandate that you comply to these principles. They're called the principles of biomedical ethics. And this is your arsenal, the principles of biomedical ethics. Every institution in the American healthcare delivery system, and you know that chart that I did where insurance, recompense, delivery, every institution within the American healthcare delivery system, they are mandated to, by law, to comply with the principles of biomedical ethics. Okay, they have to do it. And if you realize, oh, you know what? They're not. You're not doing it. Your insurance company denying you, like with me, denying me a wheelchair. I mean, I spent 7 months crawling around my apartment in in Illinois because my insurance company denied me a wheelchair. And so this was back when I was able to really, I mean, I'd be dead right now if they didn't allow me. I had to go through the appeals process that took 7 months. And this is just how things work. And this is, and basically what I know now, after learning this in my doctoral program, is that they weren't complying with the principles of biomedical ethics, and I could get them on that. Okay, so basically, whoops, I'm sorry, how did that get there? Oh, okay, yeah, this is where we want it. These are the 4 principles that all of these institutions have to comply to. They have to comply with the principle of beneficence, and that's just that they're obligated to act for the patient's benefit and eliminate situations that will cause harm. Now the thing is, the pharmaceutical medications, obviously they're causing harm, but that's okay. That's covered pretty much by the principles of non-malfeasance. It's the provider's ethical and legal obligation to not harm the patient through acts of commission or omission. So basically, they have to tell you the side effects. That's why the pharmaceutical commercials, they always say, well, the side effects are this and this and this. I mean, they don't give you a comprehensive list of everything, but you can do the research on, you can Google and find out everything every side effect that the medication has. Drugs.com is the best way to go for that, and because it'll give you every single one. And the pharmaceutical industry is obliged to, in those commercials that they do, they have to tell you the side effects. I love the ones that say the side effects are heart failure, liver damage, and death. I love that one, and that one is out there. And you don't see it as often as you used to, but that one, I think their marketing team just kind of went, you know what, we probably shouldn't say that. But this is it. So non-malfeasance, you have to tell about, this is the harm that it could cause. You have to disclose that. So your doctors have to disclose that. Autonomy. People have the intrinsic right and unconditional right to make rational decisions about their own health care. Like with me, what I did back when they were going to euthanize me, I said, you know what? I am going to take control of my own health care. I'm not going to be doing your pharmaceuticals. I'm going to go the nutraceutical route. I had the right to do that because I had autonomy. Okay, and that autonomy was granted back in the 1980s. Now, the other thing that's really kind of interesting is the last one is just justice. And that's just, it doesn't matter what color you are, what creed you are, what sex you are, you are mandated to have your health care distributed fairly and equally. Now, here's the thing that's kind of interesting, and this is another thing that I picked up in my doctoral program. Women were not allowed to participate in clinical trials until 1993. Okay, couldn't do it. Let's exclude women from the American healthcare delivery system. And so basically in 1993, women were allowed the right to participate in clinical trials. And there was 1993, that's not that long ago. We all remember what we were doing in 1993. I don't remember what I was doing in 1993, but we were there. And you know what, they did it so quietly that we didn't even notice. So basically, this is what we're talking about, and this is the program. And I want to thank you. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them now. because this is basically, oh, you know what, the other thing that I wanted to mention is another strategy to protect yourself is, and this is what I do, whenever I have a new doctor, I get the book, Principles of Biomedical Ethics. I got it used. And whenever I go into, and I'm in the little room in my doctor's office, it's a brand new doctor. I'm sitting there, I'm reading the used copy of the Principles of Biomedical Ethics. It throws them, and they ought to know that I know what I'm doing. And you can get this, you can get your own copy for like $5. Get it used. And if you want to mess with your doctor, I don't know if you want to mess with your doctor, but I love messing with doctors. And so this is what I do. So that's one thing that you can do, and because and just knowing these principles. And the other thing that's really, really useful when you're dealing with insurance companies, because here's what insurance companies do. They always, whenever you call the insurance company, you know who you get to, is you get to a lower level functionary. And these lower level functionaries, the only thing they're really permitted to do is say no and apologize. Okay, that's all they're allowed to do. You have to get above them. And you know how you get above them? Is through an advocate. And then advocacy is something that I provide. I will advocate. And the thing that's really kind of fun is I've got a card that I can pull out. I can pull out my doctor card. I spent $161,000 to get a doctor card, and so I can say, well, this, I'm Dr. Dawson. I'm a biomolecular psychologist, and these lower level functionaries scares the heck out of them, but because the goal is to get above them, you have to get to the next level. Somebody that's capable of saying yes. Think about what I've been through. I had to get a wheelchair. You know how hard it is to get a wheelchair from these people, from insurance companies? Think about this. And so I can say, you know how good I am? Is I was able to get a wheelchair. You know what else I was able to get? Think about this. I got a high-speed wheelchair. Because you see me all over the place, right? I'm all over I'm all over Shalimar. And people always comment about, oh, you know what? Yeah, you go so fast. People in golf carts, they try to race me. And they beat me. I'm not as fast as a golf cart. But I shouldn't be, because I can roll it. I have rolled this. And that's not a lot of fun, because somebody has to pick you up. And so, I haven't rolled it at Shalimar. That was at the other, but I'm capable of it. And so I'm capable of rolling this. But I'm always really careful. But essentially, what you need a lot of times is an advocate. And one of the things that, like I say, I will provide that advocacy service for you. And I can get you to the next level. If your insurance company is messing with you, I can pull out my doctor card, the grubby little piece of paper that says I'm a doctor. I can pull that out. And I can get you to the next level. So that's one of the things that I will provide. Yes, sure.
Another thing is, don't be afraid to ask a question. And you're talking about telling stories. I had twins, and they were my 6th and 7th children. And I asked about a tubal ligation. Okay, and before I mentioned that, he said, okay, well, we'll schedule a hysterectomy. All I said was, do you have to?
Right.
And 25 years later, I had a hysterectomy.
Okay.
Don't be afraid. Ask questions.
Yeah. Basically, that's autonomy. Take control of your own health care. Just a little bit of research. This is not that hard. But understand that the American healthcare delivery system has declared war on you. And you need to have strategies to protect yourself. And the strategies to protect yourself are the principles of biomedical ethics. having an advocate, because caregivers, they are conditioned not to listen to patients, but they will listen to an advocate. And it doesn't have to be a doctor, but have somebody advocate for you. You know, somebody on the phone with you, with the insurance company, because it makes them nervous. Because then they've got witnesses as to what they're doing. So that's the key. And so, you know, you may not need me. I mean, it can be anybody. But always have witnesses as to what's going on. Because if you can demonstrate that they're violating the principles of biomedical ethics, they're breaking federal law. Okay, so, and that's your arsenal. That makes sense? Okay, so I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, let's.
Medical cannabis is legal in Florida.
Right.
But when you go to the doctor, I would dare say 99 out of 100 tell you, no, it's bad, don't take it.
Right, yeah, because they've been conditioned to believe that.
I can tell you from my own self, and she knows this to be true, when I moved to Shalimar, I couldn't walk at all.
Right.
It was walker, wheelchair, cane, right, Susie? Yep. And I got started on the medical cannabis.
So you're a medical cannabis
Not
patient.
enough to make me high, obviously.
Right, yeah, so
take
you
it at night
low
before I go
dose,
to
yeah,
bed.
you low dose.
My doctor
Yeah, that's the
said-
thing about it is dosing
My
appropriately.
doctor only said I prefer you don't smoke it. So
Yeah.
I take my half square of chocolate at night. Now I
Well,
can walk. I
see,
walked
and that's
to
what
her
he should
house.
say. That's
I
what your
walked to her
doctor
house
should say.
Yesterday, I couldn't even walk the end of the driveway.
Right,
I mean,
yeah, your doctor should say no,
but
don't
they
smoke
fight
it.
you. They fight you and fight you.
Anytime you set something on fire and breathe it into your lungs, it's unlikely to be good for you.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, no medical professional is going to say, here, smoke this joint. No medical professional is going to do that. And so, but there's a variety of ways. I produce I've got a company that produces transdermal patches for me. And it's a way of getting the medicine into your bloodstream, bypassing the liver. Here's the thing about the liver. This is what the liver does. And I'm going off on a tangent. But the liver is designed to break things down. Okay, so the medicine, like a pharmaceutical medicine, a pill, a capsule that they give you to take. Here, take this capsule, 100 milligram capsule. Now think about this. Whenever you take that capsule, you know how much medicine of that 100 milligrams you're actually going to get after it passes through the digestive system in the liver? About 3 milligrams. And the FDA did a study just demonstrating this. And well, the FDA doesn't do its own studies, but they related a study. And so, the FDA is useful for some things, for information, but they're operating under a flawed paradigm, because it's like, no, we are not going to use the medicines that we've used for 12,500 years, which is the medicinal cannabis.
And even if it helps you and nothing else has before it, they still encourage you to not use that.
Right,
Even though they
yeah.
had
Well, see, here's what,
options to help.
this is also really funny. To me, this is really funny, is doctors in Florida, basically they're not allowed to learn about it, because if they're affiliated with an institution, the hospital is like, no, do not tell them about medicines that actually work. Push the pharmaceuticals. And so that's what they're doing.
That's treating symptoms only.
Yeah, it treats symptoms. Well, so anyway, here's what doctors are doing now. And this is a brilliant thing. And I don't know if the Florida doctors came up with this, or if this is going on all over the nation. But essentially what doctors are doing now is they're saying, well, you know what? I'll tell you. Like with me, what they're doing with me, because, they don't want to fight me. I mean, it's especially on something that I know. I mean, there's nobody that knows more about these molecules than I do. And so what they do is they say, well, you know what? The molecules that I am permitted to give you, what you're doing, I can't beat them. The way you're working right now, I can't do any better for you with the pharmaceutical. that I'm allowed to provide you. So you just keep doing what you're doing to treat your PTSD, of course I have PTSD. How could I not have PTSD after going through the American healthcare delivery system and them saying, okay, well, what we're going to do is euthanize you. How could I not have PTSD? So yeah, I've got some PTSD, but I know how to treat it effectively. The pharmaceutical industry has admitted that they failed at treating PTSD. Pain. You know what the pharmaceutical industry did for me for pain. They made me an opiate addict. And this is how it worked. And so, so many different things so my doctors say, you know what? I can't beat what you're doing right now with the medicines that I'm permitted to give you. I can't beat what you're doing. You just keep doing what you're doing. And that's the thing that's really interesting about Florida doctors, is they've gotten to that point where they say, you know what, I don't understand it. You can explain it, and I don't have time for you to tell me the mechanism as to why this works and how this works. And I'm not really permitted to learn it because of the institution that I'm affiliated with, because of the hospital that I'm affiliated with. I'm not allowed to learn about it. So you just keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, sure.
I have a question.
Sure.
So you have a doctor, you have a pain, a doctor prescribes a medicine for that pain, and you say, I don't want to take it. And then the doctor writes down in your chart
That you're not taking
against
it.
medical advice. Will the
Yeah.
insurance companies
Well,
pay or not pay?
at this point, doctors are not doing that. Yeah, I mean, at least the doctors in Florida. Oh, you have, where they just said not following. Yeah, I guess that did happen to me with oh God, that's another story, and I can't even remember where I'm going with it. But I can tell you that it happened.
They chart that.
Yeah, they chart that you're not following. Oh, when I left hospice, when I left hospice, they're like, left hospice against doctor's orders.
Yeah.
And so this was the thing that happened to me, was I left hospice against doctor's orders. My insurance company said, well, you know what? You left hospice against doctor's orders. We're under no obligation to pay for your medical bills.
Yeah.
So we're not paying you. You owe us $375,000. I just got through paying that. I used my student loans. And so this is just kind of how it works. And like I say, they've declared war on you. And they've declared war on you. I mean, you've got a horror story right there. And this is what went on. This is what goes on. Yes?
Previous primary doctor that I had before the one I have now, when I was very open about my medical cannabis and how that's the only thing I take, no opiates or anything. He put in my chart as a problem, cannabis dependence problem.
Oh yeah, they label cannabis dependent syndrome. That's what they did with a veteran of mine, a colleague. She had got cannabis dependent syndrome, and then they changed it to cannabis marijuana addiction, and then they just, and these are the terms that they're using. So anyway, that's where we're at. And I'll tell you what, I'm getting a signal that wrap it up. Let's get it going. So I want to thank you for coming in, and I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the stories, and I hope that it made you like me.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.